All right. So good morning. Okay. So as we have discussed last time, I will be uploading this um, video recording on YouTube. Okay, and then you can just rewatch it. Maski pa rin ulitin nyo, that would be fine para at least ma-absorb nyo again ang aton. Okay. So this will be our last topic, chapter 5, which will be financial plans, all about budget. Okay. Right. So what is budget? Budgets are usually created with a specific goal in mind. That is to cut living expenses, to increase savings, or to save a specific purpose such as education or retirement. So tatlo yung goal niya. First, um, ma-minimize natin as much as possible ang expenses. Okay? Living expenses. Take note of the living expenses. Later we'll discuss what does it mean. Increase savings, ibig sabihin, yung sobra after ng expenses, your income minus expenses, savings. Yung sobra natin doon, yung sobra natin na pwedeng magamit, pwedeng mapataas natin as it saving. Okay? And last is to dedicate a certain portion of our cash para meron tayong magawa for our other purposes like maybe education para sa mga kuya or later on magkaroon ako ng kuya or retirement if tapos na akong magtrabaho or even travel for example. So any type of specific purpose, at least magkaroon ka ng portion for that. While the need to do such things may be brought into sharper focus by the financial statement, the budget provides an actual plan for doing so. Mas comprehensive ito ang budget planning. It is more a document of action than of reflection. Ibig sabihin, ito yung magiging, kapag tama or maganda yung pagkakagawa mo ng budget plan, ito yung magiging serve mo as your guideline kung paano mo gagastosin yung pera mo. Okay? Instead of looking at kung paano mo ginastos. Okay? All right. So let's proceed with budget process. Okay? So the budget process is an infinite loop similar to the larger financial planning process. It involves, okay, so ano sabi niya, paulit-ulit, infinite loop. Okay? So parang gaya dun sa financial planning process natin. Diba sabi natin nung last meeting, financial planning process is continuous. Okay? It's a lifetime. So same thing with budget process. Ang budget process, unlike financial planning na it could take up for a long period of time, all right? Budget process, yeah, at least kahit paano medyo short term siya. Okay? Short term siya, pero pag na-achieve mo na siya, if na-accomplish mo na siya, uulit ka na naman. Gagawa ka naman ng bagong budget process na applicable naman for a certain time duration. Okay? So, budget process involves defining goals, okay? Gathering data or information, collecting information, forming expectation, reconciling your goals and data. Okay, reconcile mo from what was your expected goals and what was the previous data that you gathered, and then tantaon mo kung pila dason ang naging actual. So for example, nag nag mera ka nagpanumdum ka na ng expenses mo. Ang hambal mo, kunwari nagkaplano ka na. Okay? Kunwari nagkaplano ka, ang hambal mo, magkakaroon ka ng income, let's say, 25,000. Okay? So this is your budget planning, ha? Okay? Budget planning, 25,000. And then nag-assume ka ng imo magiging expenses will be uh, transportation. Imo tabi ambal mo imo transportation would be just about 3,000. Tapos food, maga, ano lang siya, ambalon ta 5,000. Amo na sina ang imo expectation. Pero in reality, in actual, ang imo income hindi 25 nga man kay may mga absences ka. So ang tabo instead of 25 naging 18,000 lang. And then ang transportation hindi lang siya 3,000 pero umabot siya ng 8,000. Nga man it's because nagtaas sabi halimbawa ang mga pamilite. Nagtaas ang pamilite so nagtaas man imong gasto sa community, of course, sa transportation. And then ang food, since food is life, dahamo kaya ginakatuan, nagkaroon pa ng mga Starbucks, nagkaroon ng plantanan, may Max. So, siyempre gusto mo mag-try man dito, magkaon man dito. So, nagtaas man. Hambaluntan, naglabot siya sang 12 or 13,000. So, now, you have to check kung naging balance bala, naging pantay bala ang imo budget, okay? Ang imo budget sa actual. May difference pala ang imo income, imo expected incomes versus your actual income or ang imo budgeted or estimated expenses versus the actual expenses. Kay kung dako ang ilab imbalance, ibig sabihin hindi ganun ka-effective imo budget process. Okay? And then after that, you create another budget or if wala mo pa na reconciliate, then you create your budget plan. And then monitoring actual outcomes and analyzing variance. So, gina-monitor mo. Adjusting budget expectations or goals. So, next time, ah, taas gid gali akon budget, di ko gali siya mapanubukid. Di, ano mo na siya. I-adjust mo siya dayon. After that, you redefine your goal. So, kung hindi ka siya kaya, then we may need to change it. But if it's possible na ma-change siya, then we can find a way so that we can still get our goal. Okay? So this is what it would look like. It's ano ganihang balta? It's a loop, infinite loop, pa ulit-ulit. So makita mo, it never ends. But after mo ma-define siya, after mo adjust, it goes back to defining your goal. Okay? So you can have it at 5 steps. Define goals and gather data, form expectations, reconcile goals and data. You create your budget, you monitor and analyze variance. Later, we'll discuss what is a variance in budgeting, and then you adjust budget expectations or goals. After you adjust it, you make your goals again. So it's a loop, endless. Okay. All right. So the process of creating a budget can be instructive. Creating a budget involves projecting realistic behavior. So dapat kung ano gid siya pala. Kung daw makatotohanan man. Your assumptions may come from your actual past behavior based on accurate record. Okay, so that's why kung mapansin nyo, dapat or ang mga negosyante keep gid nila ang data or ang record nila like maski 10 years or 3 years, 5 years ago. Why? It's because those past information can become valuable afterwards. If you have been using personal finance software, it has been keeping those records for you, which is true. Pero kung wala, then traditional notebook tayo. Okay. Okay. So to avoid unwelcome adjustments, we should be conservative. Okay? Dapat conservative tayo. Ano ba sabihin ng conservative? It means that when estimating, you would always underestimate the income items and potential gain and overestimate. Dalawa yan ha. You should underestimate yung income and overestimate your expenses. Ano ibig sabihin? Sa underestimate, ibig sabihin, if you were, just like sa example if you were expecting 25,000, dapat nagbigay ka na, if you're thinking na 25,000 ang sweldo mo kung perfect attendance ka, then ibig sabihin, since may you ask yourself, is there possibilities na naging late ako? Or baka may deduction ako? Oh, sabihin natin, oh, baka may deduction ako kasi nga may tax. So, ibig sabihin, instead of you writing 25,000 there, instead of sabihin mo 25, sabihin natin, babawasan ko to, gagawin ko mga 22,000 siya. Kasi baka may mga taxes ako na may mga deduction pa. May SSS, may pag-ibig, okay? So, instead of 25, naging 22. And now, kung mapapansin mo, 22,000 sa income na 18,000 actual, may difference pa rin, pero medyo maliit na. So, ibig sabihin, nagkakaroon ka na ng assumption. Oh, sabihin na, 'di ba? Yan na, underestimate ka na. Overestimate naman the potential expenses or losses. So, ibig sabihin, transportation mo, ang estimate mo is 3,000. Sabihin natin, baka tumaas bigla yung gastos. So, instead of 3,000, gagawin ko na lang siya 6,000 just to make it safe. Baka biglang tumaas ang gastos. So, hindi pa rin siya umabot ng 8,000 sa actual, pero yung difference niya, maliit na lang din. Okay? And then, food, mga 10,000. Malakas ako kumain eh. So, okay, kung makita mo, may difference pa na sila, pero compared kanina, closer na yung agwat nila. So, ibig sabihin, mas madali na, mas medyo tama na or near to realistic na ang budget mo. Okay? So, dapat, if magba-budget tayo, it would be better if we do it conservatively. Okay? Conservative ang expectation. Paano mo magagawang conservative siya? By underestimating your income and overestimating your expenses. Ibig sabihin, kung if you're expecting mo na ganit 25,000 nga income, but yung bababaan mo pa kasi baka may mga unexpected deduction ka pa. Then ang imo expenses taas-taasan mo. Baka you never know. Baka bigla gulpi ka, gusto mo magpa-restaurant. Baka gusto mo i-treat mo sarili, gusto mo magpa-samgyup. Then at least nagkaroon ka na ng room for those unexpected expenses. Okay? You will also need to determine a time, period, and frequency for your budget process. So, dapat meron, yung budget mo, naka-ano siya, may time duration. Naka-set siya for either expenses mo and income mo for the whole month or for the whole year. Okay? So, it could either be annually, monthly, or even weekly. So, pwede rin na. Weekly ang imo expenses. It can even go as far as or as little as daily. May iba na ang gumagawa daily budgeting. So that is fine also. Maganda kapag consistent ang days mo, hindi siya pabago-bago. Why? It's because you can use those previous information for your um future budgeting as well. Eh syempre, ang imo budget most likely may pare-parehas din yan. So kung pare-parehas siya or almost the same, ibig sabihin, magagamit mo yung old information mo to predict your expenses later on. Same thing, to predict your um, future income later. Okay? So choose a time period that makes sense for your quantity of data or level of financial. So gamitin mo yung information mo. So for example, kung konti lang yung budget mo, maliit lang yung income mo, it doesn't make sense for you to make annual budgeting. Kasi baka ubos na agad ang budget mo. So baka pwede mag-weekly or mag-monthly ka lang para at least nakikita mo kung hanggang saan lang agad yung income mo. Okay? Okay. Now let's go about creating a comprehensive budget. Kasi sabi natin dapat 'di ba comprehensive siya. Okay? So a comprehensive budget, that is a budget covering all aspects of financial life. It will include a projection of recurring incomes and expenses and of non-recurring expenditures. Okay? Non-recurring income, it's also called as windfall, okay, should be should not be counted on or budgeted for. Conservative. Ano ibig sabihin? Ibig sabihin, sa income, ang kino-consider lang natin is yung kaya natin i-expect na darating siya either every month or every year or kung ano man yung time period na napili mo. Ibig sabihin, i-expect mo siya. Kaya nga safe siya eh. Kasi whatever happens, you expect that by, for example, monthly. So by the second month, okay, by the second month, you would expect na may darating yung expected income mo. Like for example, sweldo. So every sweldo, darating ang imo um, income or sorry, every month darating yung imo sweldo. Okay? So it's a safe assumption to include it. Now, nga man hindi safe i-include si windfalls or si non-recurring income. From the word itself, it's non it's non-recurring. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo siya pwede asahan every month na darating. So kung kinbutang mo siya sa budget mo, eh what if kung hindi siya nag-abot this month? Then it's dangerous, delikado siya. Kay base na ginbutang mo siya sa imo income for this month, tapos nag-equal lang gyud siya sa imo sa imo expenses, then kanugon. Base kulangon kadayon. Kay this month gali wala siya nag-abot. So conservative natin ang gusto, so dapat hindi ta gyud mag-include ng recurring income. Mayo lang ya ang include ta ang recurring lang gyud, hindi ang non-recurring. Alright? Then include ta ang expenses. Ang expenses naman niya, both recurring and non-recurring, include naton. Nga man, kay ang non-recurring ta, um, expenses na mo, so obligation siya. So it's best na ready tayo na mag-abot siya kaysa sa makibot kita nga, ay nag-abot siya, tapos hindi ka gali ready. Kasi din pangitaon nimo ang imo um, ang impong bayad sina kay wala mo sige expect. Okay. So sa expenses include taya ang recurrent ang non-recurring. Kay para maski mag-abot siya this month, then safe tayo kay nga man kay may budget ka para dira. Nag-alat ka ng budget para dira. Pero kung di man siya nag-abot this month, safe ka gyapon. At least nagkaroon ka ng extra. Okay? So recurring incomes would be earnings from wages, mga gani, sweldo, interest, or dividends. Okay? May specific month ang dividends nag-abot. Okay? Recurring expenditures, ang gabalik-balik nga pare-parehas lang na expenditures may include living expenses. Alright? Living expenses or operating expenses. Yung expenses mo sa pagpangabuhi. Okay? Ano? Like for example, food. Okay? Kuryente, tubig. Okay? 'Di ba part siya ng pangabuhi mo? So, living expenses. Loan repayment, pagbayad mo kung in case na may utang, and regular savings or investment. So, we will consider that as expense. Okay? Kung nag-save kaya or kung nag-invest ka. So, syempre hindi mo man siya magamit in sigita, so we will count that as recurring or sorry, we will count that as recurring expenditures. Although later on yeah, ang savings, you can use that for source of income afterward. Non-recurring expenditures may be for capital improvements such as new roof. Kunwari, patindog ka sa balay. So, biglaan lang siya. Hindi siya monthly na nagpapatindog ka sa balay, di ba? So, biglaan lang siya. And then, for this month, ma-decide ka, okay, time na para magbakal kung sa bagong bubong dabi. Or kung nagkabagyo. Okay? Halimbawa, nagkabagyo, dayon kinahanglan mo sang bagong nga bubong kay na natangay sang hangin ang imong kubong. Okay? Or for purchases of durable items such as refrigerator or a car. These are purchases that would not be made each period. So yung mga expenses man nga hindi man gid permi-permi. So muna nagbakal ka ng appliances or mga kotse dapat. Pa hindi ka man kabakal every month ng kotse, garanon ka na gid na. So in comprehensive diagram or comprehensive budget diagram, uh, ini ang iya tsura. Okay. So this is your comprehensive budget. Ano ang unod ng comprehensive budget? May ara ka capital budget or the non-recurring item. Capital budget, ibig sabihin hindi siya yung um, permi-permi nga ginagastos just like gani. For example, ta is your magpatindog sang balay, pakayo sang balay, or magbakal sa mga appliances. Hindi ka man gabakal sinakot. And your operating or living budget or expenses. Yung gabalik-balik. So you have your living income, yung mga gastos mo sa araw-araw, sa mo pangabuhi, kuryente, tubig. Kung may renta ka, kung wala ka sa balay, then rent expense, arada. Then you have loan payments, ang utang mo, so dapat included, and your savings or investment deposit. Okay? Nga man, if mapansin mo nga man hindi si savings nasa non-recurring, eh supposedly dapat si savings recurring. Dapat for a specific period of time, kung anong ginpili mo either annually or monthly or weekly, dapat ka-save gid kita or ka-invest gid kita. Okay? So a comprehensive budget is a compilation of an operating budget for short-term goals and involving recurring items and a capital budget for long-term goals involving non-recurring items. No. For example, nga man dapat magbakal ka gid sang ref, pwede ka man kabakal sang yelo. Ay kay syempre ginlantaw mo, mas makatipid ka kung magbakal ka lang sang yelo, sorry, kung magbakal ka sang ref kaysa mag-yelo ka per May. Mas mahal ang yelo. So, that's why. So, kumbaga, you're thinking ahead. O nga man nagpakal ka kotse, it's because hambal mo, mas makatipid ka in the long run, magbakal sa kotse kag magbiyahe personal kaysa magsakay ka per May. Okay? Alright. So now let's focus on operating budget or your living expenses. So what are your recurring income and recurring expenditures? So recurring income and expenditures are usually the easiest to determine and project rather, as they happen consistently and they have an immediate effect on your everyday living. So sila yung mas madaling ma-identify. So just like for example, ano imo ginaasahan yung kwarta next month? Imo sweldo, 'di ba? Kasi syempre nagaobra kaya para sa imo sweldo. So it's easy to identify and they are easy to estimate. An income estimate shows income and expenses. Cash flow statement show actual cash expenditure. Recurring recurring income and expenditures are planned in the context of short-term life lifestyle goal preferences. So ang mga recurring income natin, short-term goal lang natin na sila. Okay? We don't expect them um, na mag-ano gid, na pang long term. Okay? Okay? So again, time period is very important. Yung time duration mo. Okay. So we have an example. So consider the following example. Mark works as a school counselor. Okay? School counselor siya. And then nag-tutor pa siya as a part-time. Tutors on the side. He also does house painting in the summer and buys and sells sports memorabilia on the internet. So nagabakal siya kag ginabaligya niya man ang mga sports memorabilia. Like for example, signed nga basketball or signed nga tennis ball, yung mga may signed gloves, mga ganun. In 2006, he bought an older house with a $200,000 fixed rate mortgage at 5.75%. So may utang na siya. Every year, he deposits 1,000 into his retirement account. So may own siya separate retirement account and deposit siya dito every year. So ang baga hindi siya necessarily every month, basta dapat consistent siya in a specific time period. So ang iya time period is um, every year. Okay? Okay? Alright. Consider he used um he used a car loan to buy his car. So another loan. Whatever cash is left over after uh, he has paid his bill, his living expenses, is saved in a money market account that earns 3% interest at the end of 2009. Mark is trying to draw up a budget for 2010. So since he bought the house, he has been keeping pretty good. He has been keeping pretty good financial records. Okay, so later we'll show that. So may pila ka source ang income ni Mark? Five. One as a counselor, one tutor, one as a painter, four as a dito, as a buy and sell. Okay, so alright. So some more constant, ibig sabihin mas reliable, recurring ang iya income. Some are more reliable, okay, and some are seasonal. So just like yung mga iba niyang trabaho, seasonal siya. Hindi siya ma-expect na every time or every month, every year, meron. So his counseling job provides a steady year-round paycheck. So steady gid ya, sure siya gid ya. House painting is seasonal, although fairly reliable as source of income. In 2008, it was less because um, Mark fell from a ladder and was unable to paint for 2. Tutoring is a seasonal source of income, so hindi madalas may nagpapa-tutor siya since the school hired but unpredictable. Um, sorry, since the school hired an additional counselor in 2008, it has decreased. Memorabilia trading is a year-round business, so year-round na siya but unpredictable source of income. So kasi may ara mga months nga wala ya may nagabaligya or nagabakal sang memorabilia. In 2009, he made some very lucrative trades, but in 2007, almost none. Interest income depends on the balance in the money market account. He would include his counseling, painting, and interest. Okay? So, basta tingala ko nga man 5 sources, eh, apat man lang ni siya. So, di ba, hambal niya gani, ang sobrang nga kwarta niya, save. Save in a money market that earns 3%. So, that's why, lima siya. Okay? So, kumbaga, passive income. Gimbutang niya lang dito, wala na siya may ginaobra, pero nag-earn siya 3% annually. Okay? Mark's expenses are reliable and easily predictable. Okay, that's good. Ibig sabihin, kaya niya, consistent and kaya niya siya predict with a few exceptions. So may ara iban nga, nagabag-o. His accident in 2008 increased his medical expenses for that year. So apparently, na-aksidente siya, wala niya gin-foresee na ma-aksidente siya. So syempre, wala man may gusto natin nga ma-aksidente, di ba? So hindi niya expected na ma-aksidente gali siya. So as a result, nagtaas iya medical expenses. Both gas for the car and heating expense vary with the weather and highly volatile. Price of, price of oil. In 2008, those expenses were unusually high. Property tax is increased in 2009, but is unlikely to do so again for several years. So, ang property tax ko no, base magtaas man, nagtaas, pero sa 2009 nagtaas, pero base, after some time, hindi na siya magtaas. So, this is ang guwa sang iya, expenses. So, actual na niya, hindi siya projection, actual. Ibig sabihin, inigad niya ang expenses niya during those years. So, wages niya, kung makita mo, medyo nagataas. Kahit pa paano. Tutoring, taas sang 2009 nagnubo. Nga man, kay nag-hire na gani kuno um, sang another counselor. Ang sales niya, may ara times nga mataas, may ara normal, may ara man grabe gid taas. House painting, same, may normal, mataas siya. It's 10, 11. Okay? So next to wages, siya agad actually ang pinakamataas. So that's why nahambal niya nga reliable. Pero hindi constant. Nga man, may time nga tubo siya. Interest income, consistent siya, parehas ng gid, pero manubo. So, constant but not reliable. Interest income, yung sa savings lang. So, total income. Then, these are ang iya gastos, expenses. Okay? Alright? So, after siya nag-savings deposit, so minus, nag-withdraw siya, 2007 and 2009, nag-withdraw siya. Okay? These are the money market. Okay? So, meron siya line of credit, pero wala man siya nag-utang, which is good. Alright. So, kung kita mo, nakikita niya kung ano iya expenses. Nga man, kaya nag-keep siya sang record. And ang record niya is annually. Okay? So, now let's talk about factors. What are the factors that would affect um your expenses? Okay? So, we have micro and macro factors. Ibig sabihin, yung micro, yung personal, like mga hospitalization, or macro, yung something to do with the economy already. Yung wala ka ng control. Alright? So Mark knows that the hiring of a new counselor has significantly cut into his tutoring income and will likely continue to do so. So, ibig sabihin yung pagnubo ng tutor niya, most likely, uh, mas maganubo pagit siya kay may ara na bago nga counselor. May kompetensya na siya. So he will get a modest raise in his wages, but has been notified that the co-pays and deductibles on his medical and dental insurance will increase in 2010. He just traded in his car and gotten a new loan for a new car. So nagdugang na naman siya liwat ng kotse. The personal or micro characteristics of of the situation influence a person's expectation, especially if they are expected to change. So yung mga like yun, nagkuha siya ng personal, so ng kotse, so iya lang budget ang naapektuhan. Pero in a larger scale, um kunwari in a country scale, in a macro scale, hindi man naapektuhan ang Pilipinas kumbaga sa sa ginkuha niya nga um kotse. So that's why micro personal lang siya. All right. So another example of a micro is if you are expecting to increase or decrease the size of your family or household, that would affect your consumption of goods or service, but it would not affect the country or the city's consumption. Maapektuhan pero halos insignificant. Kay nubo lang siya. Okay? If you anticipate a change of job or of career, that will also affect your income from wages, but not the uh, country or city's uh, wages or employment. Okay. So, ang pag sinabi mong micro, it's just about changes in your in your personal factor or personal life, right? Now, if you say macro, ito na yung um, larger or wider area. So, macro factors affecting your budget from the context of a wider economy. Okay? Ang ano na it's forces outside your personal life. Okay? For example, the price of labor depends on the relative supply and demand of labor reflected in the unemployment rates. Ano ba siningon? Kung damo ang unemployment, kung taas ang unemployment, ibig sabihin, damo ang supply sa trabahador. So, ang price pwede panubuan sa mga company. Ngaman, kay damo gapangita sang trabaho na ina. Pero kung gamay ang supply sang trabaho, taas ang demand, ang presyo or ang sweldo, taas. Ngaman, dito, kay gusto sang tao, ah, sorry, kay ang tao, ang demand, ang supply, gamay lang. Ang demand sa sina nga posisyon, taas. So, kung magkaroon gani ng, for example, doktor, gamay lang ang doktor, pero damo ka kinahanglan sang doktor. So, kung makakita gani ka ng doktor, di ba? Um, ginapilahan gid para lang maka-check up ka or maka-pakonsulta. So, unemployment rates and interest rates in turn depend on the complex dynamic economy. So, these are example of uh, uh, macro factors that affect your budgeting. So, the economy tends to behave cyclically. Ibig sabihin, nagpaulit-ulit, either nagataas or naganubo or nagataas, naganubo, nubo, taas. Okay? If the economy is in a period of contraction or recession, ibig sabihin, short period lang na pagnubo ng ng ekonomiya, usually it would be within 6 months. A competition among workers is higher. Ibig sabihin, kung naganubo ang ekonomiya, mas tumitindi ang competition sa trabaho. And wages cannot be expected to rise. Mas manubo man ang sweldo, syempre. As employment rises, especially if you have or if you are working in an industry that is cyclically contracting with the economy, ibig sabihin kung nagatrabaho ka sa isa ka industry nga naganubo ang economy, alright, wages may become more unreliable or increasingly risky if there is a risk of losing your job. Alright? So, nabutlingon, ibig sabihin, possible na madula imo trabaho. Ngaman, muna gani, kay naganubo ang industry na ina. So, base makibot ka, gulpe, maghambal na um, imo boss na, okay, sirado muna tayo or hanggang dito na lang ang operation natin kay lugi na ang so it's possible. Interest rates are, as a rule, more volatile and thus more difficult to predict. Pwede magtaas, pwede magtubo. But generally tend to fall during a period of contraction and arise in period of expansion. Pero most likely, kapag ka naganubo ang ekonomiya, ang interest rate naganubo man. Kung nagaganda ang ekonomiya, ang interest rate nagataas man. So, a budget period is usually short so that, di ba ganyan, usually pang short term lang siya. So that economic factors will not vary widely enough to affect projection. Kaya imagine mo kung nag 10 years projection kada sa imo budget. Kaya base something a lot can happen during that time. So, delikado siya. Magbago na imo budget. Hindi na siya realistic. Eh, di ba ganit gusto natin conservative, realistic. Expenses are created when a quantity of goods or services is consumed for a price, obviously. Okay, dito tayo. Macroeconomic factors are difficult to predict. Nga man, it's because, again, macro factors are out of your control. Hindi ikaw ang nag-decide sina. So that's why it is difficult to identify kung ano ina nga mga factor. Makibot ka na lang ya, gulpe, ay, nagtaas na naman ang nagtaas na naman ang oil or nadula na naman ang trabaho. Sina bala, you don't have the control over it. as they reflect complex scenarios. But news about current and expected economic conditions is easily available in the media every day. So this is your way para at least magkaroon ka ng idea or ma-predict mo kung ano ang economic factor nga makaapekto sa imo. Nga man, kay available naman siya online kahit papaano. Okay? So a good financial planner will always be keeping a sharp eye on economic indicators and forecasts. So dapat as a good na ekonomista, dapat gabasa kagit ng mga relevant important articles or news articles. So you will have a pretty concrete idea of where the economy is in its cycles and how the affects you just by seeing how your paycheck meets your living expenses. Mm. Okay? So now let's go to capital budget. So now dito naman tayo sa mga hindi recurring, non-recurring. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya expected na uh, incur like every month or every year. Base mag-incur lang siya once a month or once a year. And then next month base wala gid siya altogether. And then next month wala gyapon. Next month nagbalik siya. Okay? So income remaining after the deduction of living expenses and debt obligations or free cash flow. Okay? So anong tawag ta? Ibig sabihin, yung sobrang income mo after mo deduct ang tanan-tanan nga expenses and debt obligations, yung utang mo, okay, is called free cash flow. Okay? It is a cash flow available for capital expenditures or investment. Ibig sabihin, ano na siya? Pwede mo na siya ibutang sa imo capital expenditures or investment. So ano ang capital expenditures? These are usually part of a long-term plan of building an asset base. Ibig sabihin, 'di ba, kung gusto mo marami kang ari-arian. So those are part of capital expenditures. Ibig sabihin, hindi ka man kainsigida pakal tuta, pakal balay, pakal kotse, insigida mo. So dahan-dahan siya amat-amaton. So amat ka danay, bakal ka danay tuta. So capital expenditures. Nagpakal ka sa tuta. Next year, bakal ka naman kotse. So dahan-dahan. Investment may also be a part of a long-term plan to build an asset base or to achieve a specific goal, such as financing education or retirement, mas applicable sa atin. So long-term strategies are based on expected changes to micro factors that shape goals. For example, if you want to save for retirement because you anticipate aging and not being able to work. 'Di ba? Siyempre, all of us will be old later on, ay hindi kita kaobra. Pero buhi kita. So, gagastos kita gyapon. So, ano pang gastos ta kung hindi well, di na kita kaobra? So, we need retirement fund. Okay? So, expanding or shrinking the family structure may create new saving goals or change in housing needs that will indicate a change in an asset base. Ano ba sila yun? Ibig sabihin, um, pwede kang magpaligya na lang ng um, pwede ka kabaligyan na lang sang duta kung damo ka na duta or base pwede ka man ka ah pwede nga ang kunwari may pamilya na imupuya, di base pwede na sila ka pod para hindi na sila under sa inyo. Okay? So some changes will eliminate a specific goal. For example, a child finishing college, for example, ends the need for education saving. So kung nakatapos na siya sa education, pwede na hindi ka na ah, save liwat for education. So, inang ginasave mo before for education, mabutang mo na siya sa iba. Okay? Some changes will emphasize the necessity of a goal, such as a decline in health, underscoring the need to save for retirement. So, ibig sabihin, kung nagkakaroon ka na ng sakit, ibig sabihin, mas need mo na tigit mag-save. As personal factors change, you should reassess your longer term. So, habang nababago yung mo personal condition subong, dapat gina-adapt mo. That's why ganun, di ba? Part of our process is redefining goals. Okay? And the capital expenditures toward those goals because the long-term goals and thus capital expenditures may change with that. Ano ba silingon? Ibig sabihin, for example, tadto gusto mo 3 floor sang balay, inagidya imo dream mansion. Pero since nagatigulang ka na, masakit na magsaka, hindi mo na kaya magsaka, sakit na imo likod, ano na obrahon mo? Hindi mo na prefer magkaroon ng third floor. Gusto mo 1 floor lang, pero at least manami yapon, pero 1 floor, 1 floor na lang. Okay? So since 1 floor na lang, ay ma-save ka pa para sa budget nga pang 3 ka floor sang balay, di hindi na. Ano na obrahon mo? Ang budget mo na lang for 1 floor. So ibig sabihin, mas naka-save ka. Okay? Nagabag-o imo expenses based on your uh, status subong, personal characteristics or personal factors subong. So while many personal factors are relatively predictable over the long term, for example, yung mga nagkatigulang kagani, the macroeconomic factors that will occur simultaneously are much harder to predict. So subong hindi mo alam kung tataas ba ang ekonomiya or babagsak. Will the economy be expanding or contracting? Especially during your retirement. Will there be inflation or deflation? The farther in time you are from your goals, the harder it is to predict those factors. So, hambalon ta dabi, 20 years from now, hindi mo alam kung um, maganda ba ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas or baka mas lumala pagit. Okay? So, as you get closer to your goals, the macro factors become more influential in the assessment. So, habang mas shorter ang budget mo, mas doon mo napakikita kung ano yung influence or paano makakaapekto si macro factor. So that's why gani ang aton na obra is short term ang budgeting para mas nakikita mo, nakukonsider mo ang macro factors because they do affect your budget. Okay? So this is an example. So this is your overall budget for capital. You have your micro, yung personal, yung the family structure, yung health, yung career choice mo, age. Macro factors the economic cycle, asan ba ngayon si economy? Nasa recession ba or nasa contraction? Okay? Nasa progression ba siya? Unemployment rate. Mataas ba ang unemployment ngayon o marami ang may trabaho? And inflation or deflation. Mabilis ba ang pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin or mabagal? Okay? So the cash budget and other specialized budget. So bukod sa living or recurring expenses at capital expenditures, we also have specialized budget, right? So the cash budget. When cash flows are not periodic, that is when they are affected by seasonality or a different frequency than the budgetary period. Ano ba silingon? Ibig sabihin, there are cash flows na hindi lagi dumarating. Bigla-bigla lang. Tapos next naman, baka wala na naman. Okay? So just like yung sa example natin, ang tutorial niya kag ang ah, pa pa-house paint sang balay. Hindi man gid maasahan nga may nag-aabot gali. So although cash flows may be adequate to support expenses for the whole year, there may be timing differences. So doon nagkakaroon ng periodic or seasonal. Kasi for the whole year, mataas tani imo na baton, pero hindi man gali siya consistent every month. Nag-aabot siya every after first quarter or end of the quarter. Depende sa timing. So cash flow may incur maybe cash flows from income may be less from frequent than cash flows for expenses. For example, or maybe seasonal while expenses are more regular. Most expenses must be paid on a monthly basis. That's like tubig or kuryente. And if some income cash flows occur less frequently, okay, only seasonally, there is a risk of running out of cash in a specific month. For cash flows, timing is everything. So dapat yun na lang tawagin natin. A good management tool is the cash budget, which is a rearrangement of budget items, okay? I-rearrange mo yung budget items to show each month in detail. Where irregular cash flows can be placed in the specific month when they will occur, allowing you to see the effects of cash flow timing more clearly. So, ano ba sila nga? Ibig sabihin, ay makikita mo gali, this month, pwede akong magkaroon ng other expenses kasi at diyan madalas dumarating ang akon nga irregular income. Pero this month, other months, medyo tipid-tipid rin ta. Kay wala dira may gaabot nga income. Okay? So this is an example of budgeting based on time duration ni Mark. So makita mo, ang iya wages regular gid 3,016 every month. Iya tutor, ano tabo? Wala na, zero. Nga man, kay may ara na gani siya kakompetensya. Memorabilia, kahit paano consistent man siya, 79, manubo siya, pero at least may ara every month. House painting, taas tani siya, oh. Kung makita nyo, um, siya actually ang may pinakamataas na source of income sa iya source of income. 3,472. Even higher than the wages themselves. But, tano lang siya. Every sang 3 months lang gid from June to August. So hindi siya reliable. Hindi siya constant. Okay? And then interest income from January to May lang. The rest dayon wala naman na siya sang income. Okay. So because of that, nakita mo na okay, so etong mga to dapat magtipid ako sa ganitong buwan nga man kay hindi naman gali nag-aabot akon income dira. Okay? Unlike kagina nung nakita lang natin um ang iya yearly, dabi naton mataas. Ang gali iya, ang distribution sang income may ara month na bultuhan ginhatag like the house painting 3 months, but for the other months wala na may nag-abot. Okay? Okay? Same thing with expenses. So there are expenses na usual. Uh, you can predict 260, 260, 260. Okay? You can predict them. Same with fuel sa kuryente. Okay? But there are expenses na isahan lang like insurance. Twice lang siya nagbayad. Okay? Ano pa? Property tax, isahan lang din. 4,350 once a year. So, meron pa. Meron pa. Zero. Alright? So, tungod sa sort mo siya yearly, nakita mo na, okay, so may ara gali akong mga expenses na kis alang nag-aabot. So, I cannot expect them to be available every month. So, because of that, you would be able to be what? To be more conservative in terms of um, further making your assumption. Alright? So, what is a line of credit? Kung may makita ka dira, may line of credit siya. So, a line of credit is a loan where money can be borrowed as needed up to a certain limit and paid down as a desired, and interest is paid only on the outstanding balance. Alright? So, basically, perfect example, ang sina is your, ano, your credit card. So, 'di ba, puwede ka makagamit ng credit card mo up to a certain time period. So, those are loan credit or line credit, okay? So, delaying the capital expenditures until October would also allow the money market account to build value. Mark's seasonable income would be deposited. So, ano ba sila ngayon? Ibig sabihin, kunwari may mga galastuson ka na plano, pwede mo siya i-prepare na lang nga daan, i-delay mo na lang nga daan inang gastos mo kung saan umaandog abot ang imo other income. That way, mas ano mo siya, mas matipid mo siya and hindi ka kakapusin nga man kay during that time man gali maabot man imo income, right? But then you have to make sure that ang ibutang mo dira nga expenses are adjustable. Kay base i-allot mo dira imo monthly expenses like for example, kuryente, tubig, hay hindi magpasugot ang tubig basta mausdan ka, 'di ba? Pero kung for example, ang hambal mo gusto mo tani mag-travel, o delay mo lang dana imo travel. Iobrahan mo lang imo travel kung saan o may ara ka na nag-abot na ang imo extra. Okay? Timing matters for cash flow because you need to get cash before you spend it. But also because time affects. Okay? So it is always better to have liquidity sooner and hang onto it longer. A cash budget provides a much more detailed look at this time. Okay? So now let's go to other specialized budget. So a cash flow budget is a budget that projects a specific aspect of your finances. That is the cash flow of other kind, right? Okay. A specialized budget is ultimately included in the comprehensive budget. So another section, as it is part of a total financial activity. So ano yung mga specialized budget? So these are your budgets na tig once a year lang gid or hindi gid siya always nagkakatabo but you can expect that it would happen. Okay? It usually reflects one particular activity in more detail and such as the effect of owning and maintaining a particular asset or of pursuing a particular activity. You create a budget for the asset of the activity by segregating its income and expenses from the comprehensive budget. It is possible to create such a focused budget only if you can identify and separate its financial activity from the rest of your financial life. So, for example, suppose you decide to wake up weekend backpacking as a recreational activity. You are going to try it for 2 years and then decide if you want to continue. Aside from assessing the enjoyment that it gives you, you want to be able to assess its impact on your finances. Typically, weekend backpacking requires specialized equipment and clothing. Travel to a hiking trail access or campground, and perhaps lodging and meals. Capital investment. And then recurring expenses. You may want to create a separate budget for your backpacking investment and expenses in order to assess the value of this new recreational activity. So, di ba, once ka lang mag-travel after 2 years, so it's a special budget. So, need mo mag-ubra ng budget from the travel, from plane to hotel, kung diin ka ma-hike or diin ka ma-stay, then pabalik naman. So, lang tawag, worth it pala imo gasto sa pag-travel or hindi. That way, you can decide if include mo siya sa imo budget or no. Okay? One common type of specialized budget is a tax budget. So, including activities, income, expenses, gain, and losses that have direct tax consequences. So, a tax budget can be useful in planning or anticipating an event that will have a significant tax consequence. For example, income from self employment. The sale of a long term asset, such as stock portfolio, business, or real estate, or a gift of significant wealth or the real estate. Ano ba silingan? Ibig sabihin dapat, nami man, kung may ara ka, special record for taxes na kung ano yung mga activities mo na pwede mo na makakaapekto sa tax. So, kung nagkaroon ka ng mga additional income dyan, then additional computation yun for tax, lagay mo dyan. Ibutang mo sa imong special section. Nga man, kay para ma-anticipate mo na nga daan kung pila ang imong magiging tax afterward. Right? So, it will help you prepare kasi kulangon yung budget, wala ka na pang bayad sa tax. So, now let's go to budget variance. Lupos na siya. A budget variance occurs when the actual result of your financial activity differ from your budgeted projection. Since your expectations were based on knowledge from your financial history, ibig sabihin yung past information mo, micro and macroeconomic factors, yung interpretation mo sa micro and macroeconomic factors, and your new information, if there is a variance, it is because your estimate was inaccurate or because one or more of those factors changed unexpectedly. Ibig sabihin, medyo kinulang or sumobra ang imo expectation. If your estimate was inaccurate, perhaps you had overlooked or ignored a factor. Kasi may na-disregard ka. Knowing that can help you improve if one or more of those factors has changed unexpectedly. Then identifying the cause of the variance creates new information, which would be which can be used later on sa imo naman bag-o nga um, budget sa pag-imo pag-redefine ng budget plan. Once you have created a new budget, your financial life, of course, continues. Loop nga siya, infinite loop siya, paulit-ulit lang. So as actual data replace projection, you must now monitor liwat, di ba? Part of your step is monitoring the budget compared to your actual activities para wala ka na liwat may makita or mas gamay na ang variance or deviation from your actual versus projected or expected budget. Okay? The sooner you notice a budget variance, the sooner you can analyze it, and if necessary, adjust for it. The sooner you correct the variance, the less it would cost. For example, perhaps you had a little trouble living within your means, so you have created a budget to help you do so. You have worked out a plan so that the total expenses are just as much as total income. In your original budget, you have expected to have a certain expense for putting gas in your car, which you figured by knowing the mileage that you drive and current price of gas. You are following your budget and going along just fine. Suddenly, the price of gas goes up, nagtaas. So, so does your monthly expense, uh, nagtaas man. So that means you have to spend less for other expenses in order to keep your total expenses within your budget. Nga man, kasi syempre, as much as possible, hindi mo man gusto maglakad, di ba? Kay budlay, especially kung layo ang imo obra. Lower your gas expense by driving less. So kung pwede man na stay ka na lang sa balay mo, stay na lang anay, hindi na magastos. Increase your income to accommodate this larger expense. Obviously. Kung basta may makita ka pa na iban nga pwede mo maging income, obrahan na lang or basta may ara ka maging mga part-time na pwede maobra, i-part-time lang. Okay? So again, it bears repeating that once you have discovered a significant budget variance, kung nakita mo ba, dako gid gali ang magiging diferensya sining estimated ko sa magiging actual expense, okay? You need to analyze what caused it so that you can address it properly. So lantawon mo kung ano naging problema, naging nga man nagkaroon ng lain nga presyo ang akong gastos. Okay? So variances are also measures of the accuracy of your projection. The lesser the variance, ibig sabihin, the closer or the more accurate your projection is. The bigger your variance, the more incorrect your projection is. Okay? Uh, okay, let's go here. So let's discuss different types of taxes. Now, so any government that needs to raise revenue and has the legal authority to do so may need to tax. Tax jurisdiction means reflect government authorities to collect money from their constituents. Okay, so we have different types of tax. So income tax is usually progressive. Okay, the higher the income tax or the more to be taxed, the greater the tax rate. The percentage of tax income that is paid in tax increases are income rises. Those income categories are called tax bracket. So, ibig sabihin, may tax bracket tayo. Habang tumataas ang income mo, mas tumataas ang imo tax tax rate. Ibig sabihin, pag mababa mo tax, ang imo income, pwede na, di ka na pag-tax nga daan. Okay? Alright? So, we have example of different tax income or income taxes. Pwede mo siya pwede makita. So, magkakaroon ng tax if you're earning from wages or sweldo, interest, dividends, or gain from your investment kung nagsasal ka ng capital. Self-employment. So, for example, business. Kung kahit self-employed ka lang yan, kahit nag-business ka, gabay ka gyapon tax. Property rental. So, kung nagaparenta ka ng mga mga balay or duta, then babayad ka gyapon tax. Or royalties. So, mga singer, artist, so kung may mga rental, mga royalty sila, bayad sila gihapon tax. Nga man, kay nag-earn sila from that. So, another type of other income, such as alimony, gambling winnings, or prizes. So, yung mga nananalo sa mga pa-game show, sa mga pa-contest, may tax gyapon dira. May cut gyapon ng tax dira. Ang hindi ko naman hambalo nila, 1 million get ang napanalunan. No, it's not 1 million. It's actually less than 1 million. Nga man, because there is tax. Okay? Okay. So next, other types of tax are sales tax or consumption tax. So taxes that consumption financed by income. Ano ba sila yun? So sales tax are yung mga or consumption tax as well. Yun yung kung gabakal ka lang sang pagkaon, 'di ba? Bakal ka lang sa pagkaon, pero ang ginbakal mo wala ka balo, 'di ba ang ginbayad mo kunwari hambalon ta nagbakal ka burger, ang ginbayad mo 40 pesos. Wala ka balo, ang 40 pesos hindi na tanan makadto sa seller. Ang portion sinang 40 pesos makadto kay ano, makadto ah, kay government as a form of tax. Okay? Bukod pa na siya sa ginbayad um, ni seller nga tax sa iya operation gid. Alright? So others call it as regressive tax nga man para sa ila pabugat lang ang consumption tax nga man kay hambal nila base nagadoble-doble lang or siyempre pahirap sa tao. Kasi siyempre anong gino-consume ng tao? Food, clothing, housing, kuryente, tubig. So yung mga yon na part of the daily life, may tax yun nakasama. So, ibig sabihin, ang tao wala choice mag-consume at the same time, at the same time, nagabayad tax sa ila daily expenses, sa ila daily consumption. Alright? Another form of tax is value-added tax. So value-added tax naman is a type of tax na ginadugang sa consumption. So on top of your consumption tax or sales tax, may ara pagitugang nga value-added tax. So ano ginaobra na? So kung regressive ato, mas regressive man ini siya. Ah, nga man kay syempre ginapatong na naman siya sa mga consumption meals or like a meal or accommodation. Not all consumption products or service though have value-added tax, alright? But there are products na ginadugangan sa value-added tax, alright? Next is excise tax. So excise tax are taxes on specific consumption items such as alcohol, cigarette, or motor vehicle, fuel, or highway. Okay? So, another type of tax naman din siya na ginadugang, ginapataw. So, for example, people addicted to nicotine or alcohol tend to purchase cigarettes or liquor, even if an excise tax increases their cost and are therefore a reliable source of tax revenue. So, kung gusto bala pataasan ng government ang income, instead na pataasan lang ila sales tax, ini ang ila pataasan ang excise tax. Others call it as sin tax as well. Nga man, kay usually ginapatong siya sa mga vices. Okay? This is also their way to control ang consumption ng mga vices. So, kunwari, kahampang gid siya. So, para ma-less ang mga ma-addict sa hampang, ano obrahon ni government? Pataason niya ang tax ng gambling para ma-discourage ang tao maghampang. Okay? Alright? And next is estate tax. So, estate tax are taxes on the transfer of wealth from the deceased to the living. So, usually, ang pinaka-common sina, pag sinabing estate tax, ang gasulod gid sa utok ng tao is mga duta. Why? It's not really the duta lang, but it's actually ang pamana. So, from dito sa nadula, sa napatay, ginpamana niya sa iya puya or sa iya kamag-anak nga buhi pa. So, inang ginpamana niya, may tax man na balayran si nag-receive. So that is a form of estate tax. Okay? It's not it's not a transfer, it's not a tax of ownership, but it's actually a tax of ano, it's a tax of transferring um the owner. It's actually the transfer of wealth, not the ownership. So estate tax are controversial because they can be seen as a tax on the very idea of ownership. Na pagkagintaxan ka because ikaw nang tag-iya sina. No. Um, the gintaxan ka, it's because for the person, the deceased to be allowed to transfer the wealth from another person. Yun yung concept na. Hindi siya talaga because you are the owner. But it's because naging transfer ang wealth. Ang gin-transfer ang wealth from the deceased to the living. Okay? So, don't have that. Okay? So, hanggang dito lang ang coverage natin. Alright? So, please review from the first topic na gin-discuss ta up to this. Alright? And I will send you ang finals um, next Saturday na by November 25. So, ma-upload lang ko sa Google Classroom and then with a time frame, and then you just have to upload it afterward, right? So if you have any question, just go ahead and so if you have any questions, just go ahead and um, ask me lang. All right? Chat nyo lang ako sa GZeta. So good luck and God bless. Bye.